Well, good afternoon today. Thank you today for coming. I wanted to highlight our grant and partnership with Arizona State University Sex Trafficking Intervention Research Program. With me today, I have Dr. Dominique Rowe-Sipowicz. I have Captain Brandon Smith from our Custody Bureau, Lieutenant Lourdes Bandia from our Custody Bureau, and Lieutenant Chris Hecheverria from our Enforcement Bureau. I wanted to start off with this grant from Arizona DEMA. We wound up under House Bill 2862, granted funding for human trafficking, and more specifically what we're working on is sex trafficking and human trafficking in this partnership. So $495,000 grant that we utilize in partnership. It's the first of its kind between law enforcement and an educational program to be able to look at our inmate population and start to impact that with educational resources, detection, and investigation. The other is to enhance our enforcement efforts within the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office to work in partnership with local agencies for our investigation of human and sex trafficking, which is obviously impacting our community. So the infrastructure and resources that we've developed with this program involves training, which is a key component, number one, for detection between our staff members in our detention facilities, as well as our investigators out in the field and our deputies that may come across this type of nefarious act. Again, an industry-leading training as well that we provide. You will see a lot of this is being delivered throughout the nation in benefit to ASU as well as to our staff. Our custody staff travels around to different areas within the nation to deliver this training to detention officers and correctional officers. Actually, next week, this will be delivered in our JailCon conference that's actually provided by NIJO, which is the National Institute of Jail Operations. And so we'll be able to deliver that to these individuals to help with the detection and obviously help with victims in getting them the resources that they need. Our Enforcement Bureau and our investigative bureaus have benefited from this to help, again, with training and detection and investigation to be able to move forward, and also provide victims resources to be able to conduct and connect our victims to vital resources to get them on the path and hopefully keep them out of this vicious cycle that they get into, especially when it comes to sex trafficking. We have one dedicated heat investigator, and basically they work with partner agencies on a task force in the East Valley to be able to respond to these type of crimes, to detect these type of crimes, and investigate that to bring these criminal enterprises to justice. This allows us to not only work within our jail system, as we'll see and will be highlighted by our staff members, where we have victims that enter our jail system. We need to be able to help provide them resources. Number one, if there's a crime that's been committed, to be able to make sure we start following up on that, whether it's within our own agency or outside agencies, but connect them with the resources that are needed to get them on the path to help them heal and break this cycle for them. It also provided us investigative space for our detectives working out in the East Valley. Many of you know in the West Valley, we actually have an advocacy center that works a lot of the human trafficking and sex crimes that happen in the East Valley or the West Valley. The East Valley, this provided us some facility our detectives be able to work out of, but also give us a place where we can interview our victims. And then from the Custody Bureau, it provides us training to detect crimes that have occurred. We have a robust tablet program, as many of you know, for our inmate population. Hopefully we are able to identify areas where somebody may be a victim. There may be some language and certain keywords that they can see in some of the investigation that they look at, but also to connect our victims with resources that are much needed. And then lastly, we have the trafficking hotline that I'd like to highlight too. This also gives us a direct line to be able to take those victims, contact the hotline, work with some of those resources to be able to get them, again, the resources that they need. We'll be able to provide prevention and educational programs. So at this time, I'd like to turn this over to Dr. Dominique Rowe-Sipowicz, and she'll talk a lot about the intervention and the resources that we've utilized from ASU. Thank you.
Hi there. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our research office. So I know a slide is coming up. So my name is Dominique Rosepowitz. I'm a full professor at ASU. We have been open at ASU since 2012, our research office, focusing on both sex and labor trafficking. Since that time, so during those 12 years, we've partnered with lots of different community organizations. We have 12 staff and 5 students that are part of our community. We include a lot of different people in our staff. We have law enforcement on our staff. We have criminologists and social workers and people from different disciplines to bring us together and allow us to be creative and innovative in our work. We aim to innovate and be creative and thoughtful as we approach problems like sex trafficking and labor trafficking. So sex trafficking has existed in our world since the beginning of time. People have bought and sold people for sex, and we know that to be true. And all of the things that we've been trying to do all these years haven't always made a great big impact. So we're looking at our environment, we're looking at our community, and looking for where we can find victims of crime to be able to help them. There are 3 types of victims that we work with the sheriff's office on. Those victims that are behind bars who are highly likely to be trafficked, very vulnerable, really have lots of needs, are considered indigent. We're looking for people who have been trafficked and need support service and can connect to our services. And we're looking for traffickers who are using some of the systems within jails and prisons to traffic people. And so if we teach people to look for that and to detect that, we're doing really well. So our school is within the School of Social Work and within the Watts College of Public Service. And we have 3 kind of major areas that we focus on, and these are always in partnership with our community partners. So we've trained about 20,000 people in our community in the last 12 years. If you go to the next one. We do research and data-driven. It's called data-driven policing or data-driven decision-making, trying to use research to understand. And that's why with the tablet and the work that we're doing with MCSO, which you're going to hear about, we've done such a great job of collecting that information and making decisions. We have community engagement from ASU. ASU is a unique partner in the community. We not only do research and partnerships, but we actually do practice. So I'm the clinical director of Phoenix Starfish Place, which is a housing program for sex-trafficked women and their children. My partner in that is the city of Phoenix. So it's giving a solution to people as they come out of your jails to have a place to live with their children. We also in February 1st of 2023 opened the first state human trafficking hotline with the Department of Public Safety, another great partner of ours. So any victim anywhere in Arizona can call us and we will help them find any type of resources they need, whether it's getting back to the state they're from, finding housing, finding resources, and getting emotional support from us. We also do a drop-in center on 27th Avenue in our biggest prostitution track in the community, and we engage with our MCSO partners who come along with some of those outreaches and make sure that those clients are contacted if they are arrested at some point, that we can reach out back into the jail. And this incredible project I'm incredibly proud of is full of that innovation that ASU is so well known for, that it is the first in the nation where a jail is working with a university and we're addressing human trafficking as it is behind bars. I do want to emphasize that human trafficking happens every single day in every city in the United States. We are the 5th largest city. This is the 4th largest sheriff's office. Very important that we're paying attention to a problem that's happening in our community. And I feel like we've done a very good job partnering and finding people with strengths to address this problem. I'm going to pass it off to my partners.
Good afternoon. I'm Lieutenant Bandia, and I'm one of the liaisons with the sex trafficking unit. We have several methods of our inmates in custody to identify as victims, and if they need our resources, we help them out currently. The one that has been the most successful is a screening that we have in our tablet. So anytime the inmates log on, they're able to see this questionnaire, and it just asks them questions such as, do you work where it may be common to be pressured into performing sex acts for money, such as a strip club, illicit cantina, or a massage business? Have you ever been or are you currently being tricked into trading sex for something of value like a place to stay, protection, drugs, clothing, or food? Has any other inmate asked you about doing sex work for them or their boyfriend, friend, pimp, manager, etc.? Is someone you don't know putting money on your inmate fund account and promising to take care of you once you are released from jail? Is someone you don't know sending you U.S. mail, photos, or messages on the tablet promising to take care of you and your basic needs once you get out of jail? And are you ready to get out of the life but feel scared or unable to leave the situation? When you are released from MCSO custody, would you like support services to get out of the life? And would you like to speak to someone about this experience and be directed to services specific of victim of sex trafficking? So once the inmates fill the tablet out, it goes to our unit, and we read them, and then we go and see the inmate and see how we can be of services to them. Oftentimes, we will be the first people that they talk to about their experience, so we kind of just set them up with the resources, whether it's the hotline or if they need other resources such as clothing when they're going to get released, because when they got released, they weren't wearing something appropriate, and we provide them clothing as well. So since July 1st of 2023, we have had 191 inmates have completed the screening that have been identified as victims of sex trafficking. 109 of the inmates were interviewed by one of 6 detention human trafficking liaisons, and they were helped connected to services. 193 phone calls were placed to the Arizona Human Trafficking hotline, and they were made from inside the jail, and the phone call is free to our inmates. And 4 inmates have been placed into the housing for trafficking survivors and provided other services once released. And now I'll turn it over to one of the other liaisons.
Hello. Along with ASU STIR, we started back in 2018 getting our staff trained. Dominique came in and taught Sex Trafficking 101 to our correctional health services and to a group of people that worked inside the jails, our detention officers. We started going through that training, and we have over 300 MCSO staff members that have completed the training. Did we skip ahead? No. So yeah, 300 employees that have been trained. Also with that, we started work with Dominique on training because we saw that things needed to advance. So we came up with some training called Sex Trafficking Behind Bars, and it focuses on helping identify victims in custody, identifying how victims are recruited behind bars, interviewing victims, how to properly interview them. They are a person with a lived experience being trafficked. They're very reluctant to talk to law enforcement. So we have to sit down and gain their trust. We can't use typical interview techniques that we may use. We have to be very understanding and very compassionate and do trauma-informed interviewing. So we work on interviewing, connecting the victims with community services, and using jail intelligence to identify traffickers in custody. So if a trafficker is arrested on the street, they come in sometimes on trafficking crimes or other crimes. They'll use the tablet system, and sometimes we're able to gain intelligence with that. Since 2019, we've been able to identify 10 traffickers using jail tablets to further their trafficking activity. A recent case just happened in April of this year. One of our sergeants that was trained in detecting sex trafficking was reviewing some messages on an inmate tablet, and he said that something caught his eye from the training that he went. So he brought that over to one of the 6 human trafficking liaisons, and we reviewed it. We reviewed more in depth. We reviewed phone calls, messages, photos, and we were able to identify that there was some trafficking activity going on. This individual that was in custody had just signed a plea and was going to get 2.5 years DOC. He was in on pimping and pandering charges, and this was like 3 days before his court. So we were able to get in touch with the law enforcement agency that had made the arrest and advise them of the activity on the tablet, and they were able to get that information, do a public records request, get the information, and give it to the courts. The judge at the time of sentencing provided those tablet messages, which are public record, and the judge then increased his sentence from what everybody had agreed to, from 2.5 years to 5.5 years. This was able to keep somebody that was dangerous off the streets. He even said in his tablet messages how sorry he was and how he's a changed man, and he wrote it to one of his victims that this is what he was going to tell the judge. And then he went up there and told the judge that, and the judge replied with, well, I understand that, but right after you sent this, here's all your messages directing the girls to go work the streets, where to work, and how much. So we were able to keep this guy off the streets for 3 years longer because of one of our aware staff members. Sex trafficking behind bars has been taught at the Arizona State Bar Convention in June of '23. It was taught at the American Correctional Officers Association of Congress in Philadelphia in August of '23. With this one, we had a victim in custody. She had testified against her trafficker. She was in on some other charges. But she filled out the tablet form and identified. She actually had worked in Philadelphia, so just prior to going to this conference, we talked with her and she was able to give us some good information to take up there to provide specific to Philadelphia. I was taught last October at the Arizona Human Trafficking Summit, and it's going to be taught again this September at the same Arizona Human Trafficking Summit. Just in April, it was taught at the Russ Western Regional Human Trafficking Summit. It's an Intel Association for investigators. And then, as the sheriff pointed out, next week it's going to be taught at the National Institute of Jail Operations JailCon. So far, nationwide, over 450 people have been through this training. That's in addition to the 300 individuals with MCSO that have been through the training. Some ongoing initiatives that we have, things we're still working on. ASU STIR and MCSO are offering group classes in our Redeem program. It's called the STAR Group. It's Sex Trafficking Awareness and Recovery. This class helps teach the girls in our custody how to cope with their trauma and become trauma informed and how to process the things that they've been through in their life. We're also working with our programs division to get more trauma informed information and sex trafficking help information on our inmate tablets through our Indovo program, which is an education program that we're able to push information out on and create classes. We're currently trying to create a procedure to identify individuals that have been arrested for prostitution-related crimes. ASU STIR has done research where approximately 9 out of 10 girls arrested for prostitution have been a victim of sex trafficking. So this is a population segment that we miss sometimes because a lot of times they're released within 24 to 48 hours. So they don't get in, they don't get the tablet. So we're trying to find a way to catch them in intake where we can have somebody offer them services. Every contact we can create with somebody in the life of sex trafficking is another opportunity for them to leave that life. And several of the individuals we work with that have lived experience tell us it's just different. You got to keep offering it over and over and over, and one day they're going to accept. It might just be a word you say, it might be something, it might just be that day. So we're looking for every opportunity we can to create a connection to offer them services to help get out of the life. And we're also working with ASU STIR as part of the DEMA grant to develop a video training that we're able to put on our training platform to send out to all staff. And we can also send that out to all other law enforcement agencies to help with their staff as well. Turn it back over to the sheriff.
Well, as everybody's aware, human trafficking, sex trafficking continue to plague our community. And certainly the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, we're very grateful for the Arizona DEMA grant, for the state for providing that, to form the great partnership that we have with ASU and their research and educational programs. This has given us an opportunity to be proactive, to not only educate and train our own staff, both in the jail system and out in the field to investigate these type of crimes, but also identify those victims. The biggest thing to take away from here is the progress that's been made in identifying those victims, but also connecting them with the services to help break this cycle and get them out of this type of life. This is something that, again, continues to plague, and the more we can help our community, the more we can help identify and get this eradicated, the better off we are. And to be able to help our partner agencies out there, correction agencies throughout the nation, detention facilities, sheriff's offices, and other municipalities and state government, we're happy to be able to be in those shoes to help fulfill that, because we have to all work together to make sure we're stepping in to take a difference on this. So with that, we'll ask if there's any questions out there and take questions. Putting you to sleep, huh? All right, well, thank you. Oh, sorry about that, sir.
Yeah, I know it's might seem obvious to a lot of people, but can you just reiterate the link between being in a jail and the increased likelihood of being a victim of human trafficking? Where that link comes from?
Yeah, I don't know necessarily, well, unfortunately, a lot of times sex trafficking involves prostitution, and what happens is they get hemmed up for that. What we want to do is identify, is this somebody that's been lured in to do sex trafficking? Obviously, prostitution still exists in other areas. We're looking for those criminal organizations to help disrupt, but then provide those services to the victim to be able to help get them out of that cycle. I don't know that it's less likely, more likely, but if they're out there doing sexual acts or committing crimes for survival a lot of times, not that they want to be in this, but this is unfortunately, they get in the lifestyle. So what we want to do is help catch that to get them out of that cycle and help break that cycle and get them rehabilitated to the services so they can have a normal life, a normal family. And again, statistically, I don't know that it's any different. We're just looking at this as a connection to be able to at least start to eradicate it, mitigate it where we can. Thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. Absolutely.
Real
Sorry.
quick, I also just wanted to add something. A lot of those 191 girls that have filled out the form, a good majority of them aren't even in for prostitution-related charges. They're in for drug charges and other charges that normally we wouldn't flag or we wouldn't catch unless we had that tablet program where they see those screening forms. And a lot of them even say, I didn't even realize it until I saw this screening form. Because those questions are all written by somebody that had been in the life and lived experience. That's why sometimes you see boyfriend pin, friend pin manager, because they said, these are the keywords that might have caught my attention. So then that's why we worded those. We worked with persons with lived experience and Dominique's group in order to come with that. But a good portion of those 191 girls have never even, some of them haven't had prostitution's arrest, some of them had them in the past, but they weren't in for prostitution at the time. So it's kind of hard to see how big it is until you start getting into it and offer in different ways. Because I know we're not even reaching a good portion of our population. I think there's been 8,000 girls in the last year that have at least had access to that. But we're missing sections of population, so we're just trying to catch them.
That survey, is it offered in other languages for those inmates who do not speak English or English is not their first language?
Yes, it is in Spanish as well. It's written in Spanish on the tablet form itself, though. If they speak other language, they can select it, and it does translate it. Sometimes it doesn't translate it word for word, but it is in English and Spanish, as all of our forms are available to the inmates in English and Spanish. But on the tablet itself, if they speak another language, they can change that setting, and it does change it, but we make sure that we translate it and it's available in English and Spanish correctly.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time. I know it's a busy day.